Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Live Writer Podcast. I'm your host, writer, and novelist Edward Anthony, and today is the inaugural episode of Live Writer, where I will discuss the origin and what inspired me to launch this podcast. I was recently on Twitter when I saw a tweet from one of my followers, someone I interviewed last month on my author page. More on that later, where she posted her podcast on her Twitter feed. That led me to ask her how she got started, and she told me about this web app, Anchor, which is what I'm using today. So before I get started, I want to thank her for putting me on to Anchor. To tell you a little about myself, I'm a writer and novelist, obviously. I've written currently 4 books, 3 fiction, 1 nonfiction. I've been writing most of my life, but I started writing professionally since 2015. My first novel, Tailor Made, was written in 2015. My second novel, Execution of Priscilla, was written a year later, followed by Rebecca in January of this year, and my most recent release, my first nonfiction book, Main, M-A-I-N, a motivational book which stands for motivation, aspiration, inspiration, never ending. My approach overall when writing is an art imitating life approach. In other words, although the story is fictional, a lot of the situations will reflect reality. My goal is to write compelling content where characters pull the readers into their world, so to speak, to provide intrigue with layers of underlying gems. I'm also a blogger. I currently have 5 blogs on the Blogger website, but for now I will mention the 2 I mostly write on. The first one is EA, Creatively Creative. The EA stands for, of course, Edward Anthony, which was initially intended for me to announce updates on my books and provide excerpts on my writing projects occasionally, but it turned into an author Q&A where I have now interviewed nearly 80 authors from the latest to under the radar to the up and coming, and I haven't looked back since. The next one is my social commentary blog called Speaking My Mind, where I cover mostly controversial topics. Which brings me to today's topic. I call today's episode Pilot's Cast. I'll start with what a pilot is. This may not be the textbook definition, but this is a description of it when it is used in this context. In television, when a new show is being introduced, they will produce what is called a pilot episode, a litmus test to see whether or not it will go over with the audiences worldwide. If it gets a good reception, it will be picked up by that particular network, be it ABC, CBS, NBC, etc., for at least that season and produce more episodes to follow. Although that's not exactly my plan with this, I basically use the terms pilots in terms of this being the introductory episode and the term podcast and combined it, hence Pilot's Cast. Live writer, another pun or play on words, is simply a hybrid of the terms live wire and writer, hence live writer. So that's pretty much it, but there's more to come from me and this podcast moving forward. If you would like to check out my blogs, you can go to the following links. The social commentary blog, Speaking My Mind, is eanthonysocial.blogspot.com. I will say again in advance, that's my controversial blog, and I do not mince words, so enter at your own risk. The author page that contains all of my interviews is edwardauthor.blogspot.com. pacersfever.blogspot.com is my blog covering the Indiana Pacers. Another spot where I conduct interviews is Batini, BATINI, arts.blogspot.com. Again, that is batiniarts.blogspot.com. And my page where I introduce characters who appear in my novels is novelprofiles.blogspot.com. If you like what you've heard today and want to support, please consider becoming a monthly subscriber by visiting the listener support link or becoming a monthly subscriber on my Patreon. The link is www.patreon.com/eanthony. You can also support by donating to my PayPal by visiting my blog pages where I have the PayPal button installed, which is all of them except my social commentary blog. If you want to purchase my books, you can go to websites such as Amazon.com, Barnes& and Noble, Kobo, Smashwords, and others. You have just listened to the Live Writer Podcast. I'm writer and novelist Edward Anthony, and I will see you on the next one.